It's the weekend and you have financial questions that need answering. That can only mean one thing. It's time for Jill on Money, the show that takes the mystery out of your finances. Here's your host, Jill Schlesinger.
Welcome to the Jill on Money Show. We are delighted you are joining us for your last weekend in June. I'm Jill Schlesinger, CBS News business analyst. I am being assisted and propped up by the best executive producer in the world, Mark Talercio. And we are here to help you make sense of anything going on with your money and how it interacts with your life. And the way that we do that is we answer your questions. You can send us an email. The email address is askjill@jillonmoney.com, askjill@jillonmoney.com. If you are on our website, perhaps because you are trying to subscribe to our fantastic weekly newsletter, it comes out every Friday. If you're doing that, then you might as well say to yourself, bookmark it. I'm going to bookmark it. And then you just go right back to it. If you have a question that's going on, something's happening, you click on the Jill on Money website and then boom, there's a contact button. Send us your question. Don't forget to let us know if you would like to come on the air with us because Mark does all the work and it's delightful. I love it. I love when he does that. Mark, I'm in such a good mood today. Do you know why? Why? You thought I'd be in a bad mood? I got a lot of stuff done this morning. You know how much work I get done before 6 a.m. I got so much work done, and I'm like a kid ready for school. I bought some new materials where I can put my Jill on Money folder and all the stuff that's in the folder. Oh, by the way, I brought you back the slot one sheets for all the retirement plan limits, so you can keep that handy with you. You can take it with you on the subway just to refresh yourself. And it puts me in a good mood. My new Jill on Money folder is orange. And you know, I love the color orange. So I'm feeling good, very upbeat, very happy, and feel like ready to answer some questions. So let's go and do that right away. Okay. I know that's all you want to hear about anyway. This is from someone who says anonymous in Texas. You know what? I'm going to change your name from anonymous to Tilly in Texas. It is a woman. I know that. Hello, Jill and Mark. Love your podcast. And I've been listening throughout this COVID period. I love your honesty and candor. I got a lot of that. I've been listening to see if my problem would come up with a listener. So far, no one has asked the question. Maybe it's a non-starter for most. Okay, here's the situation. We are on the verge of retiring and setting ourselves up for enjoying the sunsets. I'm 62. My husband is 56. We're both working. We've got 2 kids that are fully launched, married, and just moved into our forever home worth $1.2 million. There's a mortgage of $450,000. Okay. So not the kids moved in. It sounds like Tilly and the husband moved in. Okay. Roth assets, $600,000. Traditional IRA, $150,000. My husband set up an annuity, which will provide $1,200 per month when retirement hits. That'll be in a couple of years. So Tilly says, I inherited a family property and they make about 30 to 40 grand a year. That's good, depending on conditions. Brokerage account with $700,000. We have some credit card debt due to the move. What? First of all, the brokerage account has $700,000. How do you have credit card debt? Pay that off immediately. Whatever is in the brokerage account, I don't care if you have to sell something and have a tax. I don't care. Pay off that credit card debt immediately. Now let's move on. So in addition, let's think about all the money they have. So they have about $3,000 a month from the property. They get $1,200 a month. That's $4,200 already. And, that's coming in. And then they're going to get pensions, $6,400 a month. Oh my God. She's going to also get a pension of $2,100 a month. So she says, should I take the pension or the lump sum payment? Better off taking the lump sum. I think the actuaries calculate on a 15-year expected timeline. I could be wrong. Mark, they have a lot of income. They do. They have, let's say 4,200 and 6,400. And that doesn't even include any, she didn't mention any Social Security either. but they have over 10 grand a month that will be coming in. And no, 12 grand a month. So should she take the pension to make it 12 grand a month, or should she take it as a lump sum and roll it into her IRA? What do you think, Mark? Yeah, I'm sort of thinking the same thing. Mark's leaning towards the income. And here's why. You don't have a ton of money right now that is set aside. And I know it would be nice to maybe have control of that. But I do think it seems like you have you've got the 600, you got 750 right now. That's already set aside in retirement assets. The bulk of that is Roth. Then you have on top of that you know, 700, now 680, but once you pay off your credit card debt in the brokerage account. I don't know. I like having the monthly income. It's great unless there's some reason why you really think you're going to do a better job in managing assets and creating income. I think we're going into a very tricky period for investors. So I'm going for the income. It also sounds to me like you may even be net savers on all of this money. So, for those of you guys who are listening, the pension lump sum versus the monthly income is always this tantalizing choice. You think, I want my money. I get that. But remember, that's a lump sum. It has to be invested. You have to invest it to be able to create a similar amount of income, which is hard to do. And I don't mind the pension company, the manager, really taking it on the chin to make sure that you get the pension that you deserve. And it's awfully nice. I mean, you didn't mention what your income is now, but it seems to me it's awfully nice to know you got about 150 grand a year coming in no matter what. And that doesn't even include your Social Security. I don't know if you're going to receive that or not. I don't know, maybe the inherited property ends up being sold. Maybe, you don't have that income, then this would be able to replace that income. I'm going for the pension. Mark, it's too bad. How long would you have had to have stayed at CBS to get the pension? Oh, so Mark actually was part of the pension plan for 5 minutes, and he says it probably won't with your coffee habit. Oh, one other piece of very important information about your coffee habit, Mark. After you convinced me to do the whole pour over thing, and I ditched the Nespresso Keurig thing, I read this whole article about how Nespresso essentially is very bad for the environment. I don't know if you and your girl want to factor that in. Just saying, okay? If you have a question that is remotely related to a dollar sign, anything, it could be a career question. Are you thinking about switching jobs? I don't know, about a quarter of Americans are right now. If you are trying to weigh two different offers, are you thinking about the housing market? Give us a holler. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
Back to Jill on Money, where Jill Schlesinger helps you take the mystery out of your finances.
Welcome back. It's Jill on Money. We are here to take the mystery out of your financial life. You know how we do that? We answer your questions. You know how you ask us your questions? 2 different ways. 1, you can send us an email, ask Jill at jillonmoney.com, or you can hop onto our website, jillonmoney.com, and click the contact button. So easy. While you're on the website, why don't you do this? Why don't you sign up for the free weekly newsletter? Mark, you know what I was thinking we could do? We could feature you on the air talking about your favorite story of the week and have that be like the teaser to get people to come on and join the the list of folks who sign up for the free weekly newsletter. What do you think of that? Do you want to come on and do that? I might have to do that on the other podcast. We'll have to see. I might make you try to think about and it's 5 stories, right? It's 4 to 5 different stories of the week. And Mark likes to wait until Friday itself. Maybe I'll do it. Maybe we'll do it on the other podcast on Tuesday, and we'll do like what was your favorite story, and then look ahead and see what we could maybe conjure up. Anyway, it's the last weekend in June, and it's a good way to stay relevant so you don't have to follow the news every single day on the financial stuff. That Mark will actually do all the work for you during the summer. And every Friday, you can just say, this is what it is, in case you missed it. Isn't that great? So good. Okay, let me remind you that we are sponsored by Facet Wealth. And Facet Wealth is a financial planning firm, and they are trying to provide flat fee, conflict-free planning to pretty much anyone. And the advice comes from certified financial planners who are fiduciaries. And all of the approach of the Facet Wealth family is about your goals. And I kind of dig that. There are no wealth or account minimums. Facet will meet you where you are. Go check out Facet Wealth at facetwealth.com. All right, this is a long email, Mark. How dare you send this to me for segment 2? Oh, brother. Here we go. Here is a question from Alan. Alan is 30 years old, and he wants to know, what is the best way to calculate how much you need to live comfortably in retirement, and how do you balance saving versus spending? Okay. Alan writes, I'm 30. My wife is 31. We're both in the medical field with relatively stable jobs. We earn about 300 grand. 30 and 31, 300 grand. It's a lot. Okay. That salary is going to increase yearly to keep up with inflation. At age 30 and 31, these guys are amazing. They've got 250 grand in investment accounts between a 401k, a backdoor Roth contribution, and a taxable brokerage account. We're mostly invested in the stock market and in index funds. We started maxing out our 401k and Roth yearly, and any leftover goes into the taxable brokerage. Companies match between 6 and 8%. We also have 12 months worth of cash to cover expenses in a high yield savings account. They've paid off their student loans, their vehicles, other debt. They recently refinanced to a 3% 30-year loan. The balance on their home mortgage is $425,000. House is worth $525,000. He says, listen, it's such a low interest rate. They're investing instead of paying extra. Good. They've got their first child on the way in a couple of months. They'll be starting a 529 account. They live in Texas, no state income tax. Wow. He says, in general, we live a normal lifestyle. We pay off our credit card every month just to get the miles. Mark, so far so good, right? I'm kind of all in on this. Now that we've paid off a lot of our debt, aside from mortgage, we want to start enjoying life a little more, traveling, possibly a backyard renovation in a couple of years. They want to add a pool or an outdoor kitchen to our forever home. Is maxing out our 401k and backdoor Roth enough to comfortably retire at age 67, considering our ages? We aren't sure how to balance between spending and investing our leftover money each month. We would have to save up cash for the backyard renovation. We wouldn't be able to put leftover money in a taxable brokerage account for a couple of years. I listen to your podcast every day on my commute to work. It's addicting. Thank you for helping the followers be more financially smart. Alan. Well, listen, Alan, here's the thing. You are probably just fine doing what you're doing. And I think you can run a retirement calculator on a variety of different websites. That's number one. So I don't know where you hold all of these accounts, but why don't you play around with a few different calculators? Oh, Mark, what was that calculator that they talked about that guy told us about yesterday? What was that? Was it Portfolio Visualizer? You might want to check that out, Portfolio Visualizer. And you can also, honestly, you can really just go to pretty much any financial company website and check it out. The other places that we have found, we have a retirement calculator from, there's one at NerdWallet. There's a company called ES Planner, which that will give you some software to give you some kind of general long-term approach, but you have to pay for it. My gut is, without running the numbers specifically for you, you're going to be fine. I think it's okay for you to save in advance for these projects, but don't go crazy either. You should actually make sure that you keep maxing out your retirement accounts, and you can save in these accounts. But, if you have the pool on your mind or something's really enticing for you, then go ahead and spend some of the money you've saved already. That's fine with me. Mark, do you have a different outlook on this? Yeah, Mark says pull back on the brokerage account for a couple of years. It's not the biggest thing in the world. And you know what? The balance between spending and investing, you're doing it the most, like, really, it's a perfect approach because that approach requires you to look ahead. Now, you're so young, it's hard to do this, but presuming you keep putting all this money away and you keep making money and you're putting money into just sort of like your general retirement savings vehicles, I think you're really going to be on target. What I think is dangerous in many people's lives is that they tend to just go crazy on this phase where you're saving, 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 or they go crazy spending, spending, spending. So you seem to want to strike this balance. The balance is different for every person. And that's what's kind of so great about this world that we're in, financial planning and helping you guys out in the community here at the Jill on Money Show. Meaning, it's so great to be able to have somebody who says, what is right for me? And I can't tell you about what is the most important priority in your financial life, but what I can tell you is that you absolutely deserve to enjoy some of the money that you're earning. And what's the point of this life? We're not just going to live in deprivation to save forever. And I think that this is one of the parts of the financial independence, retire early, the FIRE movement that's always problematic for me, which is it's this idea of living like a monk, saving tons of money, saving it all. It almost feels like, you know what it feels like, Mark? It feels like these crazy diets where, you got to eat 700 calories a day. And then once you go off the diet, I have a friend who does this all the time. She goes on these crazy diets. She loses all this weight. Then she gains 40 pounds back. Then she does it again. It's like that yo-yo dieting. It's just not good for you. So I like the balanced approach. I think that if you run these numbers and you see that your retirement is on track, you will feel more comfortable spending a bunch of that money and doing the things that make you guys happy. That's what this life is about. We don't want you to live like a monk unless you're a monk. Mark, have we ever gotten a question from a monk? Not yet. Not yet. For all we know, Sam Yo, retired monk, current Peloton instructor, will call us someday. Monks out there, we'd love to hear from you. Okay, it's the Jill on Money Show. If you've got a financial question, if you have a question about how to balance your financial situation, we'd love to hear from you. All you need to do is send us an email, askjill@jillonmoney.com. If you're on our website, click the contact button. And don't forget, while you're on the website, why don't you subscribe to both of our podcasts? It's Jill on Money is one podcast, and the other one is called Eye on Money. Notice the similarity of the topic, money. Okay, we'll be right back.
Do I invest here? Should I put my money there? Jill Schlesinger can help you. Back to Jill on Money.
You're back. It's Jill on Money. We are here to try to make you smile a little bit and try to get you a little bit less intimidated about your money. We don't want it to be scary. We don't want it to be boring. We want you to have a little bit of fun with this. And we really want to help answer your questions. So if you have a financial question, anything related to moolah, send us an email. It's askjill@jillonmoney.com. That's askjill@jillonmoney.com. We also want to let you know that we are presented by LifeLock. LifeLock, let us help protect your identity. Hey, Mark, I got a little phishing text yesterday on my phone. This one was fascinating. It was all about how to restructure my student loan. And what's fascinating about that is that I've never had a student loan in my entire life. So how did I get on that list? Mark's like, how do people fall on this? You know what? You fall for it because you're not paying attention so often. And if I did have a student loan, maybe I'd be like, oh my God, it's my student loan. Like, that's what happens. All right, Rebecca, subject line, inheritance planning. Here's a question. My husband and I are due to receive an inheritance sometime this year. $350,000 in cash, $40,000 in bonds, and $880,000 in stocks. And those stocks pay an annual dividend of 50 grand. Wow. Okay. House is valued at about 320,000. They owe 158,000. We owe $6,000 on one car. The other is paid for. We've got $70,000 in savings. Why do you owe $6,000 on a car if you have 70 grand in savings? First, let's pay off that car loan. Okay. Combined income, $58,000. Their monthly expenses are $2,850. No credit card debt, no children. My husband will be 63 this year. I will be 60. We will have small pensions from our jobs, small amount in IRAs and other retirement. My husband wants to retire in 2 years and work part-time when he can start collecting Social Security and qualify for Medicare. I would like to continue working until I'm 67. My calculations estimate that our total net worth will be about $1.8 million by the end of this year when his mother's estate is settled. Where should we park the $350 in cash so we can earn the best interest? Mark, why are they going to keep $350 in cash? Okay, so Rebecca, I don't know if you're getting help on any of this stuff, but I think you might benefit from talking to a financial advisor. I really do. This is a lot of money, given your income and given the fact you haven't really invested in your life. I think that you should be careful. And I think you need to plan. And I think you need to figure out whether or not you really want to keep everything the way that it has been invested. And what is the right approach for you guys? It's more than money than you need. It's fantastic. You guys are now going to benefit from having this amazing influx of money all at once. But I absolutely think it is time for you to find an advisor. And you need to seek an advisor who is a fiduciary, meaning someone who's going to put your interests first. So you want to look maybe at a certified financial planner. Certified financial planners, the website is letsmakeaplan.org. You can go to NAPFA, the National Association of Personal Financial Advisors, napfa.org. And you can also check out the AICPAs, the CPAs who have a financial planning specialty. So AICPA-PFS. And you might want to check out our sponsor, Facet Wealth. So that's my 2 cents there. Mark, you agree? Do you think this is a planning potential client there? Yeah, we're worried that like all the money in stocks, and I don't know. I just think having a game plan, it will give you a better understanding of how you want to plan this out. And if you have follow-up questions, we'd love to hear from you. We really would, because to me, this is one of those situations where having some real customized advice could be incredibly helpful. All right, Chris says, I have about $55,000 that's available credit on cards from each of my 2 banks and 4 other major credit card companies and no balances. I always pay off balances right away, even for large purposes. My question, I have 2 smaller cards, a Best Buy and a furniture chain card, which I use one time to get free financing on a purchase. I never use them now. Does it hurt my credit to have open cards I never use? No, it doesn't. It actually does not. Should I take a short-term hit and just close these 2? Nah. I mean, your credit score is above 820. Why mess with it? I'd just say, I would actually just cut up the cards, throw them away, and ignore this. Mark, any other ideas around this? Yeah, I mean, so the weird part about this is that if you close your accounts, the annoying and weird thing is that because you'll have less credit available to you, then it actually negatively impacts your credit score. don't get me started about the whole credit score thing, which is just maniacal in its control of our lives. But you should just know that closing accounts can actually harm you. Okay. And that's really what I would do. Okay. You ready for one last one here, Mark? This is from Maggie. Remember the question that we've had about FIRE, meaning the financial independence, retire early? We have two different approaches. We have FINE, Financial Independence New Endeavor, and check out the recent blog post that I put on jillonmoney.com. We also had FIERO, Financial Independence Enables Retirement Options. And here is what Maggie says. Let's do FIOR, FIOR, Financial Independence Optional Retirement. You like that one, Mark? Okay, he likes it. He likes FIRE, but it's too close to fire. So the original. So we still like FINE from listener Marshall. It's a great one. It's so great. Okay. If you have a financial issue, if you want to weigh in on your new financial independence, because again, Mark and I are not into early retirement. We're into options, having as many options as possible to do what you want to do in the middle or later years of your career. Financial Independence New Endeavor is the one that seems to be winning out. Let us know your thoughts. It's Jill on Money, and we'll be right back.
Welcome back to Jill on Money, where Jill Schlesinger takes the mystery out of your finances.
You're back. It's Jill on Money. We are here to help answer your financial questions, your career questions. We don't really care if it is like remotely associated with money or dollar sign or something that impacts your financial life. We'd love to hear from you. Our email address is askjill@jillonmoney.com. When you send us that email, don't forget to tell us if you want to come on the air live with us. That is what Sue did. She's on the line from Pennsylvania. Hi, Sue.
Good morning, Jill. I would like to know if you think I could retire prior to 65 to spend some time with my husband, who's already retired.
Oh, the lucky devil. Tell me a little bit about what's going on for you guys.
Well, he's retired. I'm still working, and I make about $100,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
We probably only need about $85,000. We'd be comfortable with that.
Okay.
We have saved. We were late to start saving for those people that are like me and just started in their 50s, but we have managed to save $500,000 between our IRAs, diversified portfolio, my SEP fund, and we have $60,000 in an emergency fund.
That's great. Fantastic.
Yeah.
How old is your husband who's already retired?
73.
I presume he gets Social Security?
Yes, he does. Mm-hmm.
And how much is that?
After Medicare comes out, it's $33.88 a month.
$33.88 a month. And what about your Social Security and how old are you?
I am 62.
And when you look at your full retirement age, so don't tell me about the early number, but the full retirement age number, how much would that be for you?
Approximately $1,800 if I go full retirement.
You said $500,000. So here's a question for you. Of that $500,000, what's non-retirement? So you said $60,000 in the emergency reserve fund. Of that money, how much is non-retirement assets?
Diversified portfolio is about $325,000.
That's good. Okay, that's good. Why am I asking that? Because I'm trying to kind of ballpark if you can actually wait until your full retirement age and have some money that you could dip into. I mean, if you only need $85,000, okay, your future Social Security plus his current gives you about 62,000. I just did a quick back of the envelope calculation. So that gives you 62,000. So we know that once you get to your full retirement age, you guys are golden because you don't need that much more money, right? It's really easy. However, the idea that you would stop sooner also might mean that we have to fund the gap between age 62 and your full retirement age. And so my question to you is, how would you feel spending down some of that money that's in the non-retirement account to fund that differential?
Well, I have a little bit of a surprise for you in that.
I hope it's that you're an heiress.
No, that'd be nice. I actually have 105 in a PDIA. What are those called? Deferred income annuity.
Yeah, a deferred annuity. Yep.
And we have a paid off rental property that brings in $1,200 a month.
Oh my God. So you're done.
Oh,
So yeah, you can retire. That's easy.
today?
That's an easy one. Well, calm down. Don't give your notice right now. I mean, look, I think that if you have pension and Social Security money and that is available to you, it gives you great flexibility. I still don't think that it would be worth it for you to file your Social Security claim early necessarily. Okay. Because I don't love that. But if you have all of these streams of income, then yeah, of course you can make this happen. But are you sure you're not going to be bored? Do you like him that much? I mean, you really want to spend all this time together?
Now, I'm a personal trainer and I teach fitness. So that would
What? That's awesome.
Come on down. Come on down.
Oh my God. I have many questions for you, but you and I are in the exact same business. Do you know that? We are in the exact same business, which is we deal with all different kinds of people who have goals and objectives. Some of them are realistic and some of them are not. And all we do is we create game plans for people to achieve their goals and we try to reset their expectations, right? So I always said this to my trainer, Keith. I always say to him, you and I were in the exact same business. And I think that you are in great shape, frankly. I mean, physically and financially. And I think that this is one of those situations where really because of the annuity, because of the rental income, because of, sort of the future income streams that will be provided to you, you got a lot of choices today. So even though you say you're late to this, you're you really have gotten this down. And do you think, Sue, that there would be some possibility that you might like keep some of your favorite clients in retirement or not really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So you're still going to make some money. That's what I would think, right?
I'll never stop working. I'll do something.
Oh, that's great. You're a very late saver who's done a fantastic job. Enjoy retirement. Don't give your notice today. Remember, just threaten your husband. If I get sick of you, I'm going right back to work because you must be in very high demand. And we wish you all the best. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. Thanks, guys.
If you, like Sue, would like to come on the air live with us, all you need to do is send us a note. Our email address is askjill@jillonmoney.com. If you're on the website, if you're on the jillonmoney.com website, just click the contact button, ask the question, and then say, I want to come on the air. Mark will do the rest. Okay, we'll be right back. You're back. It's Jill on Money, and this is the program that attempts to take the mystery out of your financial life. It is also the program that has been described as a program about money that is not scary or boring. It's actually fun. And I know Mark and I have fun doing it. So that's the key, isn't it? It really is. Someone just recently asked me for some career advice, and she said to me, what is it about your job that you like the most? I said, there's no doubt, no competition. It is the radio show and podcasts. That's my number one favorite thing to do. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Yes, that is even despite the fact that people do your hair and makeup when you go on TV. Yes, I love the audio world the most, and that's all about you guys. Send us your questions. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. That's what Matt did, whose message is very short to the point. Love your show. What are your thoughts on I-bonds? You and Mark are the best. Okay. I-bonds. I-bonds are a type of savings bond. So if you want to check it out, you can go to treasurydirect.gov. What the I-bond is intended to do is to kind of combine a savings bond, a government savings bond, with some inflation protection. So right now, if you look at the I-bonds, what it does is it says the interest rate that you get is a combination of a fixed rate and an inflation rate. And so here I'm going to read it right now. For bonds issued from May 2021 through October 2021, the combined rate 3.54%. So that's kind of cool. So you could buy that, get a little protection. Yeah, it's always a little bit of a pain to do the whole savings bond thing, but it's not terrible. Mark, are you did Theo receive any I bonds or double E bonds as gifts after he was born? Oh, Mark found some bonds from his baptism. Cash those in yet, my man, or not? Are they still paying interest? You should check it out. All right. Anyway, if you want to find, I like them. They're fine. There's plenty of ways to invest. You can buy tips. You can buy an inflation bond index that might help you out. But there's nothing wrong with them inherently. And so I say, Matt, it depends what it's used for. But I like I bonds, and we are going to be entering into a strange period inflation wise. So it may be worth checking them out. All right, you are listening to Jill on Money, and stay tuned. We've got a great guest who is teed right up. Her name is Katy Milkman. She is an academic with a sense of humor and a tennis player, too. Okay, we'll be right back.
It's the weekend, and that can only mean one thing. You're listening to Jill on Money, the show that takes the mystery out of your finances. Here's your host, Jill Schlesinger.
You're back. It's Jill on Money. It's hour number 2, which means it is time for the interview. Very exciting. We've got a great guest for you. We always try to bring you entertaining and smart people. And we actually have the combination of both in author Katy Milkman. She's a PhD. She's also an award-winning behavioral scientist. She's written a book that caught our attention. Mark and I were very intrigued by the title, How to Change: The Science of Getting from Where You Are to Where You Want to Be. And I think that you're really going to enjoy this conversation, because this is truly about what are the things that get in the way and how we can kind of deal with the fact that we are human beings. And as human beings, there's a lot going on in those little brains of ours. How can we deal with that? What are the things that we need to know? And why on earth did Katy Milkman start her whole book with a story about tennis star Andre Agassi? Well, you're about to find out. Here's our interview with Katy Milkman. So you started your book with the story of Andre Agassi. Now, why'd you do that? And explain how that gets us into this idea of how to change.
Yeah, I started the book with Andre Agassi first because tennis is my language. That's what I grew up playing. That's one of the reasons. But second, to make a really important point about behavior change and the nature of being smart about change. So the story involves a pivotal moment in Agassi's career where he was really struggling despite having lots of media attention for his flashy clothes and flashy attitude and style. He actually wasn't doing very well on the tour. He was ranked something like 32nd in the world in the early 1990s, despite everyone's expectations that he would be dominating the tour based on his childhood prodigy status and his talent. And he has this pivotal conversation with Brad Gilbert, who was a superstar who'd just written a best-selling book called Winning Ugly and had outperformed his talent vastly on the tour. He was another pro player who had reached number 4 in the world despite having very little talent. So a really different story. And Gilbert pointed out to Agassi that the key flaw in his game was that he was too self-focused. He didn't think about his opponent enough on the court. He went out there and he had this set of shots that he would try to hit. He would go for winners, and he was so good that it took him quite far, and he won a lot of matches, but didn't do nearly as well as he could if he had been thinking more strategically, letting his opponent sometimes lose, letting his opponent make mistakes, putting pressure on the opponent, and understanding how to play a more strategic game. And of course, the happy ending to this story is that after taking Brad Gilbert on as coach, Agassi goes on to win the US Open after being unseeded, meaning no one expected him to perform well in the tournament at all. He wins it. He's the first unseeded player to ever win the US Open in the last, in decades. So it's a big historic event. And then he goes on to hold the number 1 ranking in the world for something like 100 weeks starting after this pivot. Of course, there were ups and downs, but his career really turns around. And I use this story to make the point that being strategic is absolutely critical. If there's one thing I have taken away from a career studying change, it's that too often we reach for one-size-fits-all solutions instead of being strategic, thinking about our opponent. What are we up against? What is the barrier to change? If we understand whether we're facing a challenge and unable to make progress on change because we're having difficulty getting started, or it's a self-confidence problem, or we're forgetting, or we have bad habits, or maybe it's because we procrastinate or are impulsive. What's the challenge? And then actually the solution that science suggests will be most effective differs. We need to tailor our solutions to those challenges. So that's why I start there.
I think that the other aspect of this, which is there's no simple way to give somebody sort of the template to succeed or to get from where you are to where you want to be. It also resonates with me because obviously this is a show where people contact us and say, here's my financial situation. What should I do? And I feel like having that direct kind of advice is really helpful. But what I also know is that people, they contact us because maybe they feel like they're unsure of themselves, but also because they don't know where to start. So I'm hoping you can help identify this idea around the power of a blank slate, the when you start to try to do something. And if you could talk a little bit about that, I think that would be really helpful for folks listening who are saying, like, I like listening to this, I'm a voyeur, but I could never call Jill myself, or I don't know even where to start.
Yeah, this is one of the most interesting topics I've had the pleasure of studying, I think. And the impetus for doing work on trying to find when are the moments to start came from giving a presentation to a bunch of executives at Google about a decade ago about different tools and tactics that could be used to promote change, including change around personal savings decisions. They wanted to make sure that their employees were financially secure, and many of them were opting into their 401k plan, for instance. And I got this fantastic question, which was, okay, we want to offer all of these tools. There's all these nudges we can use to try to improve financial wellness, health, and wellness as well. Is there some ideal time to offer them to our employees? When should we be offering them? Is there a moment when they're particularly motivated to take on the challenge of change? And I thought it was such a fascinating question. And it provoked this research I did with Heng-Chen Dai, who's a professor at UCLA Anderson, and Jason Reese, who's a senior fellow at Wharton, where we determined that there are moments in our lives where we're more open to change. And there are moments that look like chapter breaks in our lives, because the way we think about time isn't linear. We think about our life like a series of chapters, like we're characters in a book. And we close one chapter, open another, say at the Boston years or the college years or the consulting years, whatever it is. There's different things that bookend those chapters in our lives. When we open a new chapter, we feel like we have a new beginning and a clean slate. And one of the best known examples of this is New Year's, which is a bookend for many of us. We think about time discontinuously around New Year's. We say, okay, it's a new year, a new me. I can do it. I can say that was the old me who didn't enroll in the 401k or didn't quit smoking, didn't make better decisions. And the new me has a clean slate and a fresh start and is going to be more capable than the old me was. So it turns out there's a lot of moments like this, and we even can see them on calendars. So the start of a new week, the start of a new month, the beginning of an era after a holiday is celebrated, particularly holidays that feel like fresh starts. So more think Memorial Day or Labor Day and less Valentine's Day. And also birthdays also seem to motivate this sense of a fresh start and a clean slate in our research. And we've shown that people are more likely to do things like search for the term diet on Google or visit the gym or set goals on popular goal setting websites at these fresh start moments. And if we invite someone, for instance, to start saving, to open a 401k, we did an experiment with thousands of people who weren't yet saving in a 401k. And we simply highlighted a moment and said, do you want to start saving after the start of spring or after your upcoming birthday? We offer them that opportunity. That improves the rate of savings over the following 8 months compared to inviting someone to save at exactly the same time delay, but not highlighting the association with a fresh start rate. So 2 people have a birthday in 2 months. One gets an offer, do you want to start saving in 2 months? The other, do you want to start saving after your birthday? We see 30% more savings in the following 8 months in the group invited to begin after a fresh start date.
We'll get back to our interview with Katie Milkman in just a moment. If during the break you have a moment yourselves, you do, because it's a break, why don't you go to the website, JillOnMoney.com, and sign up for the free weekly newsletter? And while you're there, subscribe to our 2 podcasts, Jill on Money and I on Money. It's all found on the JillOnMoney.com website. We'll be right back.
Back to Jill on Money, where Jill Schlesinger helps you take the mystery out of your finances.
You're back. It's Jill on Money, and we are here trying to help you understand the obstacles that stand in the way of you and your financial success. One of the ways we do that is by encouraging you to ask us a question about what's going on. And it can be maybe just a second opinion, 2 or 3 sets of eyes that can help figure out what's going on in your financial life. All you need to do is to send us a note. Our email address is askjill@jillonmoney.com. And if you're on our website, jillonmoney.com, we've got a beautiful little contact button. Boom, it'll take you right to us. When you send us this question, here is a great idea. Tell us if you are willing to come on the air with us. Live and in person. Mark, I would date myself if I said, is it live or Memorex? Do you remember that commercial or not? Yes, cassette tapes by Memorex. I believe my friend Jamie Stone was the one who said that only Memorex tapes were good enough for us. Okay, so if you want to come on the air live with us, tell us that you want to come on the air live, and then you, like us, will be broadcasting from the Capital One Bank virtual studios. See how I just incorporated that into the whole body? It's kind of great, huh? Capital One, this is Banking Reimagined. What's in your wallet? Okay, we're going to get back to our interview with Katie Milkman. She's a behavioral scientist. She's written a great book. We want to figure out, why is it so hard for habits to start sticking for real? Here's more of our interview with Katie Milkman. So I remember interviewing Dan Pink a few years ago when he wrote that book, When, The Scientific Secrets of Perfect Timing. And it made so much sense to me that, that there are these inflection points. I think financial service companies have known this forever because they talk about, trying to hit people when they're ready to make some sort of change. And that could be obviously change of job. It could be retirement. It could be birth. It could be death. It could be divorce. I also want you to take people off the hook for not being able to necessarily do it. So if you point out that, yes, of course, we all see those statistics, 80% of those New Year's resolutions fail, but you say 20% actually succeed, and there's always another chance. So why is it with some people it just takes longer to get it going? What have you found in your research about that?
There are all these other barriers besides just getting started that we need to tackle in order to make sure that change will persist. And by the way, I love that you interviewed Dan Pink about When, and I love that book. It was one of the first books that covered our research in a really in-depth way and brought fresh starts and the fresh start effect we've studied to wide attention. And I'm a huge fan of his. I think the important point, though, is just getting started isn't enough, right? You need a plan, you need a path forward, you need to stay motivated, you need to persist, you need to build habits. And so it's only the beginning to start. One thing, though, that is really wonderful is when you recognize that, first of all, there's lots of tools, and this is part of why I wrote a book that has more than one chapter, that can help with other elements of change. But also, there are some things we can do when we're feeling motivated, when we have that flush of excitement at the start of a new year, after a birthday, whatever it is that focuses our attention on the need to change and makes us motivated to do so. There are some things we can do where you don't need more than that momentary motivation to make a big difference. And I think actually focusing on those kinds of opportunities can be really valuable. So an example is, right, you set up a recurring deposit into a savings account, right? An auto deduction from, say, your checking account to your savings account. You do it once and it carries you forward. You don't have to have sustained motivation for a decision like that. Enrolling in a 401k or increasing your contribution in your 401k is another kind of decision. If you're feeling that motivation, it's one time, one act that has this really long set of benefits, because most of us, once we've set something up, we forget it. Inertia is a magical potion that, if used in a good way, can be really valuable. So I just want to highlight that too.
You also say, I mean, I love the chapter about impulsivity, because I wrote a book. Maybe you want to have me on your podcast, girl. Called The Dumb Things Smart People Do With Their Money. And there is a certain amount of this emotional body that we carry with us, right? And to some extent, I think that this idea where people, they start with something, they're on track, but they're diverted, and it may be their own emotions that divert them, or maybe they get sucked into something because, we know that there are temptations everywhere, not just spending temptations, but, investing temptations. So tell us a little bit about impulsivity and the way to trump that impulsive nature that we as human beings have.
Yeah, impulsivity is one of my favorite topics. It's actually probably the reason I became a behavioral scientist, is learning that this is something that could be modeled and tackled systematically by economists. And I was just fascinated because it resonated so much. So economists call this present bias. It's the tendency we have to overweight anything that will give us immediate gratification and underweight or undervalue long-term goals, long-term returns that we get, whether it's in the market or in life, in some other walk of life. And it leads us to make impulsive decisions. Present bias leads us to make lots of mistakes because we, eat the candy bar instead of going to the gym, and we buy the shiny new gadget instead of saving for retirement. And that's not good for us in the long run. Once we recognize this about ourselves, though, there's a lot of strategies we can use to try to offset that challenge. And I think my favorite takeaway from this research is based on insights from Ayelet Fishbach at the University of Chicago and Caitlin Woolley at Cornell, who have done wonderful research showing most of us have the wrong intuition about the best way to pursue change when we're facing present bias. What we think we should do is just find the most effective path, say, to saving more or to exercising regularly. Like, what's the tactic, what's the approach that will lead to the best outcomes? And that's what we pursue. But actually, a minority of us take a different approach, and it works better, which is to try to find a fun, instantly gratifying way to actually achieve your goals. So if you think about this in the context of the gym, it's a really natural trade-off. You could either, pick the machine that will burn the most calories per minute, say the Stairmaster, or you could say, what's the most fun exercise I could do? Maybe it's a Zumba class with my friends. And what they find is if we choose something that's enjoyable, we persist much longer on our goals. We don't just do it once and quit, because that instant gratification that we get that's how we make the decision of whether or not to do something. And so once we recognize it, we can use that insight to improve outcomes. So gamification is one way that organizations, apps try to make it more fun to pursue our goals. That's sort of putting bells and whistles, wrapping paper on the outside. But if you can choose a way to do the activity by making it social, or by doing something I call temptation bundling, which is only letting yourself enjoy some treat while simultaneously pursuing your goal. Like, I only get to binge watch a favorite TV show while at the gym on a treadmill, or only get to listen to my favorite podcast while doing household chores. That basically gives you the spoonful of sugar approach, right, that Mary Poppins popularized in her wonderful song.
Yes, and I just want you to know that I of course I love the spoonful of sugar, but you also mentioned the other line in that song, which is just parenthetically one of my favorite. Should we sing it together? In every job that must be done, there is an element of fun. You find the fun and snap, the job's a game. Okay, so listen, I am a huge part. I mean, I am a huge Broadway show fan. So as soon as you, or, any show tune I will do, I just want you to know the funny thing about that is 5, 6 years ago, I interviewed Julie Andrews in front of a live audience.
Oh my gosh, that is
And
so fun.
I
Amazing.
it's amazing. Forget it. It's like, I mean, besides you, this is like, that was my best interview.
Right. Besides me.
But reason why I bring that up is I said to her, that line of that song always resonated with me because it always felt like no matter what, if you could have some fun doing it, even if it was sort of like slightly disgusting, you could find some fun or you could find the funny aspect of it. And I said, this is how I live my life. I talked about financial matters. I cover the economy, and that, like, if I could do it and smile and make someone else smile and understand it, it was so much easier. And she goes, well, really, it's like my mantra of life. Like, no matter what happens, if you could just have a little bit of fun, you can make a lot of other things happen. And so I thought that you would like that feedback. She would be so happy, you have that mantra out there. We'll get back to our interview with Katie Milkman in just a second, but here is what you should be doing during the break. You should be on the website, jillonmoney.com, and you should subscribe to our free weekly newsletter. It's right there, jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
Do I invest here? Should I put my money there? Jill Schlesinger can help you. Back to Jill on Money.
You're back. It's Jill on Money. This is the program that takes the mystery out of your financial life. And we are in the middle of an interview with an author and academic named Katie Milkman. She's written a book called How to Change: The Science of Getting from Where You Are to Where You Want to Be. And this part of the interview was very interesting for me because it was in this part of the interview that I actually started to think about the way I talk to you guys about money. And one of the things in her book that was really interesting that Katie talked about was how people can be intimidated by the success of others. So I conducted this interview a couple of weeks ago. I've already started to incorporate this concept into how I talk to you guys. So if you've ever felt intimidated, wait and see what Katie says. Here's the reason why that intimidation can cause you to perhaps not be your best self. Here's more of our interview with Katie Milkman. One of the things that was very striking to me is this part of the book where you talk about how people can be intimidated when they hear successes of others. And I want to tell you, I want to get your advice because on this program, we have people who will contact us who have a ton of money. And we have people who contact us who have no money. And often we'll get sort of like a snide remark, or someone will write to me and be like, oh, you only put rich people on the air. And I always say, well, I don't really care. Rich people, poor people, like whoever has a financial question will answer it. What is it about hearing about someone else's success that makes people feel bad and not really even think about well, that has nothing to do with me? Like, what is it that I can do better when I'm talking to these people to make them feel like, hey, it's all inclusive. Like, we'll bring everyone on the air. What can I do better?
That's a really wonderful question. What you're talking about, it relates to research on social norms. So social norms are the behaviors we see others exhibiting that can be contagious. So I see everybody else is studying hard in my dorm, and it makes me likely to be a more studious freshman, for instance. And, other behaviors can be contagious too. I learned that a bunch of my friends went to a retirement savings workshop and they're all going to open 401ks. I'm a bit more likely to do the same. But the challenge comes when the people you're observing taking some action that you might not otherwise have thought to take yourself are people who feel out of reach. You can't relate to them. They seem impossibly successful or impossibly different. So the more we can relate to someone, the more we want to follow in their footsteps, and we recognize the information as valuable that they give us and imitable.
I like it.
So the more you can do, I think, to make those callers really relatable and highlight what's the same about all of us, what our common struggles are, even, by the way, like common demographic traits. Hey, they're from the same region. They grew up with a similar set of circumstances. Whatever you can do, it makes the person more relatable and feel more like you, tends to increase the likelihood we'll follow them. There's this really interesting study that was done. This is going to sound like a weird context, but this interesting study done with hotel towel reuse, trying to encourage people to reuse their towels by telling them lots of other people reuse their towels. And there were different messages tried about whether it was just lots of other people or lots of other people who are also citizens. The most effective framing was other people who literally stayed in the same hotel room, which seems like a funny basis for having a lot of identification, but people could identify, hey, oh, it really was a similar set of circumstances. So the more you can highlight that, the better.
How do we keep people on track and not lose them in the process? I mean, I hate finger waggers. It's like one of my pet peeves. I hate when people are like, you did this wrong, or you're spending too much money. I don't think that works, first of all. What is the positive way to reinforce the good behavior?
There are a lot of positive things that we can do to reinforce behavior, and that is so important. That rewards after something good has happened are a big part of what helps form cycles of virtuous behavior. That's where habits come from, right? You consistently do the same thing and you get rewarded for it, and then it turns into a habit. So certainly, just cheering people on for their successes rather than finger wagging for their failures is likely to add value if you're trying to create those virtuous cycles. I also think we can put people on pedestals more. When one thing that research shows can be really valuable actually is asking someone who's facing a challenge but pushing through or attempting to push through to give advice to others on how to overcome the same kinds of challenges or reach the same kinds of goals. And a reason that seems to be effective is that it makes you feel like I'm a role model. Instead of just giving me advice about how I can be more successful, you're actually asking me to give other people advice. This is a really great insight from Lauren Eskris-Winkler, a psychologist who's about to join the faculty at the Kellogg School at Northwestern. I think that might be another tactic we can use when we want to help people persist and highlight their successes, is thinking about ways we can not only praise them, but put them on a pedestal by saying, hey, I have another friend who is also trying to achieve a similar goal, and I think you're doing such an amazing job. Would you be willing to give them some tips? That will actually help the person who's giving the tips be more successful themselves.
Now, why is that? Because I find that fascinating. The giving advice isn't just helpful for the person you're giving advice to. Is it amount of confidence? I mean, what is it behind giving advice that makes the advice giver more successful?
There's a few ingredients. And by the way, almost everything that is effective in this realm has a few things going on. It's almost always multiply determined. That's part of the power. But one is absolutely the self-confidence boost that you get from being asked to give advice. Someone is telling you, I believe in you. I think you have useful insights to share. And that puffs out your chest and makes you feel more motivated and more capable right away. But there's other magic ingredients as well, including, now that I have to give someone advice, I have to introspect more deeply so that I have something to say about what really does work. I have to put that into words for someone else. And when you articulate something, you are more likely to dredge up insights you might not have had already that then could help you. But also, once you tell someone else you should do this, you're going to feel like a hypocrite if you don't do it yourself. And proselytizing about something is one of the best ways to change your own beliefs about it. There's something called the saying is believing effect. So all of those things together make advice giving really beneficial for the advice giver, which is fascinating.
Okay, we'll get back to our interview with Katie Milkman in just a moment. Hey, why don't you do this? During the break, hop on to JillOnMoney.com, and while you're there, check out the resource section. Mark has great stuff there. Jill on Money. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Jill on Money, where Jill Schlesinger takes the mystery out of your finances.
You're back. It's Jill on Money. And, I realize it is the last weekend in June, which means any minute you're going to be getting your second quarter statements from your retirement plan, maybe your investment accounts. Half of the year will have been over. A fantastic time to take stock of where you stand. Also a really good time to evaluate whether maybe the financial professional with whom you're working, if you are working with one, or the institution, whether that relationship is still serving you well. Well, I think that is actually something we should all be doing on an ongoing basis. And if you are thinking that perhaps there's a different way to deal with your financial life, you're right, because our sponsor, Facet Wealth, also believes that. Facet Wealth does not have a wealth or an account minimum. In fact, the whole mantra of the place is to provide financial planning to as many people as possible, to really expand the pool, not just for people who are already rich, people who are trying to get rich or trying to accumulate assets. Facet provides flat fee, conflict-free planning. And that planning comes from certified financial planners directly. Those financial planners are fiduciaries, meaning they are required. They live by this. They have to put your needs first. The other part of being a certified financial planner, and by the way, Mark and I are both certified financial planners, is that just the going through the program of becoming a certified financial planner means that you are really focused on the goals of the person that you're trying to help. And Facet does actually adhere to that. They do goal-based financial planning, and you get a dedicated advisor. So check them out. Facet Wealth, the website is facetwealth.com. Okay, so now we're going to conclude our interview with Katie Milkman. Again, she's the author of How to Change, The Science of Getting from Where You Are to Where You Want to Be. Here is the end of our interview with Katie. In the book and in your research, you are a behavioral economist, you are an academic. What surprised you in your findings that was counterintuitive, that you never would have believed before you started actually researching that?
I think the most counterintuitive finding from all of my work has been around the best way to form habits. And we did this experiment. I mentioned Google earlier. This was actually, I went back to Google and did this work with some of the folks I had talked to about the fresh start effect. And we were trying to figure out how to help employees form lasting exercise habits. Actually, after the start of a new year, lots of people want to form them, go to the gyms on campus. And we had about 2,500 people sign up. And we had this formula in our heads that we were sure would produce lasting change, which was get people to go in a really consistent manner at the same time of day, every day that they went for a month. And then we thought if we could just really motivate people to be consistent in that routine, that we'd create a sticky habit that would endure. And we compared getting people to go always at the same time to getting them to go in a more variable pattern, just as a test to see, maybe flexibility was valuable. We were pretty sure it was that consistency that would breed routine. So we had two groups, randomly assigned them. One group we got going to the gym 85% of the visits at the same time. The other group went at the same frequency, but in a more varied pattern. About half the visits were at the same time. And what we found in the end was that the group who had more variable visits actually created a longer lasting habit. So after the month where we're intervening and trying to control the timing of their visits ends, they keep going more. And it was really absolutely fascinating to figure out why. What we learned is essentially they'd formed really brittle habits if people were going to the gym at a really consistent time. So they actually went slightly more at that magic time they had identified when they had been going 85% of the time during our month-long program. But if they missed that magic window, say 7 a.m. being their best workout time, they were very unlikely to go. Whereas the other group had formed a more flexible habit. If they missed their 8 a.m. workout, they would go at noon. If they missed noon, they would go at 5 p.m. And that more flexible habit proved to be much more durable. And net, they went more. So that was probably the most surprising thing I found. To me, it makes sense in hindsight, but in foresight, I was sure that this consistency and routine would be absolutely critical to forming durable habits, and discovering the importance of flexibility was really interesting.
Now, producer Mark, was very rigid in his Peloton habit. Okay. And he would say, I would only do it. I can only do it if I do it at 5:30 in the morning, blah, 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 blah. And then there were some childcare issues, but his in-laws were back in town and he could like shove the kid into the in-laws' laps. And what did you find, Mark? Isn't it like your actual performance on the Peloton improved so dramatically when it was a different time of day? So Mark, he says the workouts have been much better. And what's fascinating to me about that is that I think that it's partially could be it's a different time of day, but it's also partially like there's no anxiety around like I have to get this done within this certain time. And if I don't get it done, then I can't feed my kid. And then like it throws your whole schedule off. But to give yourself some flexibility, I think that that's a mindset that we could all adopt. Because I think that when I'm talking about personal finance issues, that like you can get so rigid in this, but there are a lot of different ways to give people options. And so I really did appreciate so much of your book because I think it's going to, I hope we'll see, is going to make me better at providing this kind of advice to people. And I really appreciate you joining us. So if you want to check it out, How to Change the Science of Getting from Where You Are to Where You Want to Be. We'll be right back. You're back. It's Jill on Money, and want to thank Katie Milkman again for joining us. So interesting. Just think her stuff is really great and quite engaging. If you have a question about how you're going to get from where you are to where you want to be, give us a holler. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. And okay, let's read the last email of the show. This is from Bob, who says, "Hey, Jill, I just walked home from my last day at the office. And I have you and Mark to thank for getting me there, along with some other podcasters and authors. And let's leave them aside for the moment. I've been listening for years, years before your first sponsor, and I only missed episodes when my phone has died and I need to get a new one. I don't care if you call it Fire, Fine, or Fiero, but I turned 55 today and I'm going to spend my time upgrading and managing my rental properties for about 10 to 15 hours per week, and the rest of the time more leisurely. We have more than enough to bridge us until the pensions, which will cover our modest lifestyle easily. Thank you for helping me build options for my life, Bob." Oh my God, Mark, what a way to end the show. That is just what I want to hear. So if you missed it, we've been talking about FIRE, the Financial Independence Retire Early, and we're thinking about maybe we ought to replace that with some other acronyms. The one that Mark and I are leaning towards is Financial Independence New Endeavor, FINE. That's from our listener, Marshall, who helped us get that one. Fiero was Financial Independence Enables Retirement Options, so it seems quite perfect for Bob. But wherever you are in your life, if you want more options, then you need to contact us. We're here for you. We want to help you get where you want to go. So send us an email, ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. If you're on our website, why don't you subscribe to our two podcasts? One is called Jill on Money. The other is called Eye on Money. We want to remind you to please lift somebody up today. And don't forget, every single week I have to remind you, our music is composed by Joel Goodman. Mark Talersio is our executive producer, and we are absolutely 100% focused on you. We are here for you, and we thank you for bringing your questions to our attention. And it's a privilege to help you get where you want to go. So we'll talk to you next week, and don't forget to send us those questions if anything comes up. Thanks for listening.